It is day 35 of the Zombie Hunter build. Today what I intend on doing is sanding down all the fiberglass that I used when I covered up the patch panels inside the fenders. And then also washing out the fenders and prepping them, because what I plan on doing is a friend of mine had a gallon of Herculiner sitting around and he was not using it. He wanted it for a project that he was working on, and he didn't end up using it and actually selling the project. So what I plan on doing is lining the wheel wells and inside those fenders with the Herculiner. And it gives me that extra layer of protection that I do like with all the urethane coatings. So while it's not going to be as smooth as or something smooth to the touch as Restomod is, and I do have a gallon of black Restomod, I wouldn't want to waste that gallon lining the wheel wells of my truck. Because you're not really going to see what's inside there. It's going to look nice and glossy black because that's the texture that Herculiner has, and then eventually it'll fade, but it'll still be a deep black. So what I plan on doing is doing that, cleaning it all off, washing that, and then applying that. That way I'll be able to attach my fenders back on the truck and get everything kind of pieced together and put the new grill on and things like that. So that's what I'm working on right now. I'm sorry. It is winter. It is December 2nd. So I had the black Restomod. I purchased that gallon, and I've been debating what I plan on doing with it. I had a lot of plans for that. So I wanted to. What I think I'm going to do anyway, right now, is once I get it all, the exterior all patched up and put together, I'm going to clean out the interior and use that black Restomod on the interior of the vehicle. I have 3 little kids, and currently the truck was coated with Herculiner. And Herculiner is a lot grittier. There's little pieces of rubber in there and things like that, and you have a lot of sharp edges. I don't want my kids getting all scratched up while rolling around in the back of the truck. So, Restomod is much better suited for the interior of the vehicle. The exterior as well, but it just doesn't have that harsh texture that Herculiner or some of the other ones do. So, the plan is to line the interior with the Restomod, and the car was already coated with Herculiner when I purchased it, but the guy did a terrible job, and he didn't really prep the steel for it. So we'll see. It was peeling off in sheets, before when I was first working on it and replacing those floor pans. So hopefully the rest of it will peel off just as easily. If not, I'll have to figure out a way to grind it all down and then I'll roll the Restomod on the interior. And I also planned on using that black Restomod for some of the exterior things, like when I put the trim pieces back on. So I was working on creating those fiberglass trim pieces, but I got to thinking, and I had some advice from some of my subscribers, and trust me, I do listen to input from subscribers. So one of the subscribers, Cubus Maximus, had he brought up a good point. My rub rails are in decent shape. There's 2 that just need minor repairs. So I don't know if I necessarily want to recreate all my rub rails at the moment. I kind of want to get this thing, put together and start driving it frequently. So what I think I may do is scratch that plan for now. I'll work on creating that one piece just to see how it works out. It's kind of a experiment in the project. If it turns out nice, I may recreate them, and when I have later plans, when I start messing around with the vehicle some more. But at the moment, I think what I'm going to do is use that black Restomod to do the interior of the car rather than all the exterior pieces. So I planned on also coating this with Restomod, but I think what I may do is just sand it all down and then spray it with black black spray paint. You know, I think that too much monster liner, you know, you run the risk of it also looking sloppy. You know, because I mean, it's definitely not a completely, you know, flawless finish. It's perfect for what it is, and that's going to be for, you know, off-road use and just being rugged. But I think all the little accent pieces and things like that should look a little bit more refined. So I might not do that fiberglass work on those pieces. We'll see. I mean, at the moment, it looks bare, you know, and I want to get them just on there so it kind of looks all put together. So for the time being, I will use that black monster liner for the interior of the vehicle instead. So now I'll get to work, get to washing this thing and sanding down all the pieces that need to be sanded down, and then dry it off and get it ready for coating. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray this stuff on all the parts of the inner fenders that have a lot of grime. You know, like in here there's a lot of, it's not just dirt, it's like, you know, it's a lot of road grime and oil and things like that. So I want to ensure that the Herculiner adheres well to the, you know, all surfaces. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, you know, degrease it with this and use a wire brush to scrub it all down, and then use water, you know, use the hose and spray it all down, make sure that stuff's off of it, and then I'll wash it twice with the trisodium phosphate, and that's the cleaner that Monster Liner recommends using. So you know, that'll clean the surface, and then dry it, let it dry, and then I can start rolling it with the Herculiner. So that's what we're going to do right now. Alright, so I started adding the Herculiner on, and as you can see, it's a lot grittier than Monster Liner when it was applied. You can see there's little chunks of asphalt or little pieces of rubber or something inside there. So, yeah, it's definitely going to be a much rougher texture, but I'll continue applying it to all the fenders, and hopefully it'll turn out decent. At least it'll give me that added protection. And I don't know if it's UV stable. I don't think it is, because I know it fades. But again, it's going to be in the wheel well, so I don't really have to worry about UV rays hitting it. So I just have to keep applying it and just be careful not to get it on the finished Monster Liner, and then we'll see how it turns out. So I'm applying it in a thinner coat, and what I'm doing is I'm just trying to seal up any of the primered or painted surfaces, and then I just want to make sure that I'm more cautious with it because I don't want to get it to, you know, to seep out anywhere or drip or get onto any of the finished monster liner, because that's the exterior surface and it's a much nicer appearance. This stuff is just purely functional. Alright, so I coated all the wheel wells with Herculiner. So this is what we ended up with. You know, you can see it's a lot grittier than the monster liner. You know, and I wanted to get that nice black coating inside there. It's going to fade a little bit, I'm sure. Because it's not exposed to the sun, it might not fade too much, but at least it looks more uniform now. And I ended up only using half a gallon. You know, I probably could have coated the entire undercarriage of the truck, but you know, I'm not on a lift and I didn't expect it to, you know, coat everything, but that's what we have. And then once the fenders are on, you know, you'll have that just like a nice black wheel well, and it'll be a nice deep black. So there we go. Now I just gotta wait for it to cure. Again, it's gonna take about probably 2 to 3 hours for it to cure. And then I'll try to put the fenders back on the truck. That way I can work on getting that grill in place. Alright, so I just got the fender put on and I bolted it up. This bolt was having a problem getting in, so I'll have to play with that a little later and then tighten everything up. And I also have to tighten up the top bolt over here. So I ended up buying a bunch of these little plastic pieces. I didn't want to, just because they're outrageously expensive. I think they're like 75 cents each. But in the end, I ended up having to. I'd rather get the original ones than something aftermarket that maybe wouldn't fit. But this is going to allow me to put the trim piece back on, and I need to get some new screws for it. So I'm thinking about going to the hardware store and picking up some stainless, you know, longer stainless screws, and seeing how those fit in here, and just mounting up the rub rail like that. But yeah, there's a lot of them. But that's how it looks. So it's only one side right now, but you can see how it's coming together.